What's up, guys?
What's shaking out there in the social media worlds?
Ooh, the social media world, I
That's
like
right.
that. Um, we're throwing you out a video here about D&D.
Honor among thieves.
This is not no personal campaign we're looking at here. We're talking about the movie,
That's right. That's right.
right? And right off the bat, can we talk about whether we liked it or not?
I
Or
think we probably
is that jumping some sort of gun?
no. You can't. But as long as we're not rating it just yet, because bananas. That's what's important out there.
Yeah. We're
And
not I'm not going to give it no bananas, but I will say I did enjoy this movie.
I really enjoyed it as well.
We've had a few D&D based movies over the years,
Yes,
and I'm going to say some of them lacked luster.
they mostly lackluster.
But this one, I would say they hit the mark on it.
I'm just to throw it out there. It's the fact that I think they were trying to be too serious in the previous movies. Like,
I would have to agree in the manner of that it's like a mixture of being too serious and then mix it in with a whole lot of like campy
yeah,
parts.
yeah,
Where it was like they just couldn't get a fine medium there.
no, and it felt kind of low budget. Like where you'd think something is popular. And I mean, it's probably not as popular back in the early 2000s when the first movie came out, but nowadays, the popularity of games like Dungeons and Dragons and
with
those,
people like Vin Diesel
yes,
playing D&D. Isn't it crazy that we get to live through an era where the things that we maybe got made fun of a little bit
yeah,
for doing has come full circle and it's become popular.
yeah,
A lot of people might not like it, but we're in a superhero phase over the last 10 years. We've got the D&D and stuff like that, and the fantasy world is
mhm,
really big and stuff like that. And now nerdism seems to be a little less, you know, untolerated, and would you say cool even sometimes?
yeah, and I still can't get a date, so
Yeah.
that's
So I
that's where
mean,
that is.
I don't think your wife would like that anyway.
Oh, that's fair. I meant with
Um,
her, but
you can't get the time of the day from her,
no.
right?
Um,
But this movie, I would say, is the first D&D based movie where they really took the essence of D&D and did it right and were um, really true to the nature of it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You had like solid party system. You had the ridiculousness of a lot of the portions of when you're playing a game of D&D. Anybody who's ever played D&D knows that ridiculous is almost the name of the game.
Yeah, and if you're having a fun time, you get into circumstances where it's laughable.
Oh
All
yeah.
right, and if you've played D&D, let us know in the comments and go ahead and tell us maybe a crazy story that you might have had in a D&D campaign. Um,
Please. I remember
you
one
know,
time, and this really speaks to the essence of D&D when you're with a group of friends and just playing and goofing around and stuff. A lot of the times, the serious parts, the storyline parts, aren't what generally stick in your head. It's the parts like our friend persuading someone and convincing someone that their donkey and carriage was not actually theirs, it was his, and eventually managed to gain possession of
mhm.
said donkey and carriage from
the
the owner.
the the camaraderie and the silliness and really the creativity of an actual campaign that both me and you being D&D players in the past um, can really appreciate some of the creativity that they took with this.
Oh, for sure.
And it really did feel like a campaign.
Yeah. Yeah.
It felt like you were watching a campaign play through. You could really kind of sense moments where even failures were taking place. Like you get the feeling of somebody rolling a natural 20
Yeah.
or a natural one even.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and we can kind of go through a couple of moments where it felt like that.
Sure.
You know,
I love that the movie kind of started off with them in prison and
giving their own
it's
backstory.
that they were throwing down the backstory, which was great.
You know,
Because you spend all that time writing a backstory that is for the most part just not used.
and
Maybe a couple little pieces
that's
picked out.
how your average campaign would
Yeah.
start is telling your backstory. And I thought that was a awesome way to start the movie.
Yeah.
It instantly felt like I was watching like a Critical Role
Yep.
campaign or something.
Another great great Dungeons and Dragons based
Yeah.
series, by the way. But yeah, just that whole recanting the backstory and building on those characters right at the beginning was super fun for me. I loved
Yeah.
it. I loved
And then even
the interruptions to it,
yeah,
how he was telling the story as a bard and stuff like that too, really playing the character was
and
kind of
and
cool.
playing alongside a bard, you really he played that bard was played like perfectly.
Oh yeah,
You know, because what's the bard's role
he's
is
just
not a heavy combat character
no,
and everything.
he's
You
just
know,
out there, getting the troops going.
yeah.
He's like inspiring everybody, and that's basically what his role
So
was.
that scene where he explains his backstory and stuff like that, absolutely hilarious and definitely something you could see happening in a real campaign.
Yeah,
Is when like he keeps calling back to that Jeffrey or
Yeah.
Joffrey. Was it Jeffrey or
Jeffrey,
something along that
Yeah.
line, right? Which uh, some of the characters were based off of actual characters in campaigns.
Yeah.
I think I think maybe in the Icewind Dale booklet, some of the people that were judging him.
Yeah.
I think they were from one of those. I think it was Icewind Dale.
Cool.
But this Joffrey or Jeffrey or whatever was made up for the movie.
Yeah.
He keeps recalling back to it because that's part of their plan, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that they escaped just as they were declaring
Yeah.
that they were
we were
releasing,
going to pardon you.
we were going to pardon you. It's totally something that would happen in a campaign.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You know?
And the like craziness of it. I thought it was, and I mean, there's little pieces here and there, but like the fact that Joffrey, whichever, was so large as an Aarakocra was weird for me.
Yeah.
Like having a massive bird. But I mean, maybe he's big for his species or something.
Yeah. And then,
and being able to just carry two fully grown humans.
And then I absolutely like appreciate the ending where the move is tried again, but a failure.
Yeah. Because they already set it up. And
Yeah.
stoned off the window when he smashes into it.
Yeah.
What was this? Forge?
Yeah, Forge.
Forge Fitzsimmons or something?
Forge.
What a dick.
Forge. How could you do that?
Classic rogue moves, though.
Definitely, though. Always thinking about themselves, right? You know?
Gotta get that coin.
But you're so happy when things don't work out for him.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
He played a good, like,
Hugh Grant.
Good villain dude that wasn't like the main villain, but like
he was a campy villain.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was very clear that he wasn't the big baddie of the story, right?
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of Hugh Grant.
Okay.
By all means, but he did a good job.
I can't even think of something else that I've seen him in.
That's because he plays a lot of like I think rom-coms and stuff like that, which is,
that's not my jam.
so
it's not my jam.
Not your jam.
No.
But yeah, he still played a good character and stuff like that. The betrayal. Right.
That SOB.
And then what is the Fast and the Furious?
The Fast and the Furious.
The Fast and the Furious gal.
When I think of her, I don't think of Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, that was Dom's gal.
I don't really think of that. I usually think of like the other movies that she's been in where she's cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
like
her character.
Like Aliens. Resident Evil.
She was in Aliens?
Yeah. Right? No?
No?
Wasn't she?
I think the producer here, she's a big Aliens fan, and I'm getting a no from her. So
wasn't she one of the troops that came in?
It might have been like a Doom. Was she in Doom?
I don't know.
In Aliens?
I don't think so.
Anyway, her character is is Helga?
Olga.
Olga.
Yeah. Olga. Kilgore.
Killmonger.
What?
She plays the barbarian.
Yeah.
Good job.
Great job.
All right.
And she didn't play the like a lot of people when they play barbarian play like a classically dumb barbarian.
Yeah.
She just played like a quiet, ragey warrior.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was solid.
Like it took a bit to figure out what class she was.
Yeah, I wasn't sure I was like leaning on fighter or barbarian.
Yeah.
I wasn't 100%.
But
she could cross class.
Oh yeah, yeah. Great.
We don't know.
Great job. Really played that character well.
And there was another I thought one of my favorite scenes I think was when they were escaping from their initial capture at Neverwinter, and they're walking down the little alleyway there, and then they burst into the fight scene, and she quickly escapes, obviously rolling well on her
Yeah,
end.
this is one of those portions of the movie where you can picture both of the
Yeah,
characters. You can picture their roles,
yeah,
and I don't know if this is like if I don't know if you have to be a D&D player to think this way, you know. But like I definitely had like I was feeling the failures and the successes
yeah, because it was a pretty consistent failure for Edian. I was trying to get those binders off.
for the entire fight almost, right?
Yeah,
Um,
just shouting encouragement while he's
but that's what a bard does.
yeah.
He's there to buff and stuff like that, you know.
I love that she got that axe that they were talking about so much.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
And then later on, when the axe kind of gets a buff,
Yeah,
an upgrade type deal,
yeah.
it's kind of cool, right?
Oh, that was so cool. Um, but yeah, watching that was probably one of my favorite scenes was that fight scene and the fact that it felt like a combat in the game.
I
There's
think
so many things in this show or in this movie that
felt
felt
like a game, like a
in
campaign.
in-game pieces.
And like later on, we talk about the bigger battle scene where it definitely feels like a initiative based fight.
The end,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it does really, right? Like where everybody seems to kind of be taking their turn almost
Yeah.
during the whole thing.
And it almost
With
seems to be following like that 6
Selena,
second rule.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
where everybody has their little move that they do in between of everything.
In their action
Oh,
and their bonus actions.
yeah, a couple of people got 2 strikes in there with the bonus action.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Then we've got the druid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of the druids.
So was I. Oh, you mean druids in general?
Druids in general.
Okay.
I'm a fan of the druids. They are a kind of a whimsical kind of class where they get to do all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
They can be almost anything for your party depending on how you use them.
And they have some of the coolest abilities and stuff, right? Like she turns into a freaking
Fly.
a fly. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
she does. She turns into an owlbear.
Yes.
Okay. And there's some controversy over whether she could actually do that in a as a campaign.
House rules, bud.
But that's what I was gonna say. They took the liberties with this, made it kind of a homebrew. I'm okay with that.
I am too.
You know?
And I mean that's
I'm sure
again,
there's some nitpickers out there.
I think they even had mentioned it in one of the commercials, kind of like talked about it. That transformation in particular, and really that's any game that you're playing. Like it's house rules. Doesn't have it's not always exactly by the book. I think the Dungeon Master's Guide even says something along the lines of the rules don't make the game. You do.
The players do, right?
That's right.
And that's why I think there's going to be your nitpickers out there. But like if you're playing a game that's so close to the rules, and not that rules don't matter because they keep a game in line.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're not having a little bit of fun with it, what's the point, right?
And transforming into an owlbear, it's not that hardcore. It's
I think
just cool.
they went for the cool factor.
Yeah.
All right. There is one thing that is way more glamorous in a movie style than in an actual campaign. Okay. Because I'll tell you one thing: if you're playing a druid, okay, you're not changing into that many things that quickly in that span of time.
No,
unless you're doing some resting.
Yeah, unless you're just like at level 20, like hardcore druid that has a million spell slots. This is just not happening.
I didn't see her rest in between all that.
I need a short rest.
I didn't. So
that was also just at the end of that scene. I was so happy that she turned into a deer after Holga had mentioned that a deer. Yes.
And then Olga even mentions it.
Yeah.
She did turn into a deer.
Yeah.
Right?
It was good.
Those are the classic things that people turn into too. Like the mouse.
Yep. You got to you're always turning into something small.
So you can get into little areas and stuff.
And then you have your whatever your big one is. Hers was obviously the owlbear for the hardcore fight. But great druid.
Yeah.
Love the druid.
And then like the only other complaint, and I don't think it's a real complaint with her, is that like she was a tiefling that was born of human parents.
Yeah.
Or a human parent.
Parents.
Human parents.
Yeah, I think both.
Okay. Now that would explain why she kind of looked more humanistic.
Yeah.
Or humanistic. Is that a human-like?
Sure.
I like to make up words sometimes.
Humanesque.
Humanesque. I like that. Um, but I think I would have appreciated a tiny bit more of a
Tiefling vibe.
tiefling vibe
Yeah.
because it was very easy to forget that she was tiefling.
Yeah, especially when we had kind of talked about this a little bit before the show, is the similarity to the druid in, and I cannot think still of her name, in
Vox Machina.
Vox Machina. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, we'll try to put something.
But like she has the little horns.
Producer
that she
loves
has,
it when
right?
I do that.
Yeah. Put it here. She has the little horns and she's a druid, so
Yeah,
you could almost just kind of forget that she was a tiefling through the movie.
yeah.
It might have been more interesting if they did really.
I don't think it hurt the movie by any
No,
means,
no, no.
but I think
Just
I would have enjoyed that.
aesthetically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have enjoyed that because I find that there are certain movies in the past that cheap out on stuff
Yeah.
like that. I don't feel like that's what they did here, but it irks me a little bit when they do that.
And I love, like, tieflings are one of my favorite things to play. And if you're going to play a tiefling warlock, that's the way to go
Hmm.
with anything. But
Like
it's
I don't.
amazing.
It's like I don't like when they take a character like Beast Boy
Yeah.
and make him have green hair and then call it a day.
Titans, yeah.
You know, like put the work in and make the character what he's supposed to be.
Green.
It wouldn't have been that hard. We have Hulks.
That's still a great show.
All right. I'm not saying it's not a bad show, but it's a reference that I'm making. So
Yeah.
who else do we have?
Zank Yandar, the paladin.
So very serious character.
Yeah. And when I think of, like, especially like NPC paladins, this is how I think of them all the time.
Yeah.
Like, super pious, really serious about what they're doing. They're lawful good. It's just
Yeah.
somewhat annoying,
Yep.
right? Where you're just like, oh, shut up.
And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Right. This is a character that I think
I can't touch the ground.
I think that this character not being part of the party for the entire movie
Mhm.
was a great choice.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
the fact that he just it's like a part-time camp, like somebody walks into your campaign and then has to leave early.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
But he also, like, represented the way overpowered NPC guy,
Yes.
right? Like, where there's always your DM for some reason
He throws it in to help you
always,
along
yeah,
every
has
once
to
in a
have this
while.
outrageously powered character that they just kind of
That,
throw in.
and they love that character.
Yeah. It's their character.
And
It's
he's
basically their character.
It's overpowered so that nobody can kill it.
That's right. Because you want to kill it sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god.
And we've tried.
Yeah.
In campaigns.
Unsuccessfully.
So, and we've also tried to keep a couple people alive just so that the DM would have to write a backstory for him.
Yeah.
Which was fun.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of him. Like, he pushes the storyline along and then takes off.
Yeah.
Comes back, helps him, leaves, kind of thing. It was kind of, I like the way they did the paladin.
Mm-hmm.
There's Simon.
Simon the
sorcerer.
Sad sorcerer.
Yeah, so depressed.
Just trying to get a date, really.
Yeah, that was his whole story, basically, and to get confident enough to get that date.
Yeah,
which I loved.
I mean, power to him though. He got in there at the end.
I love the fact that they used like a wild magic sorcerer too, which is kind of cool. Because the big powers that come out of those wild magic sorcerers are always, like, usually emotionally driven and stuff like that.
And so his
it's
confidence,
gonna be all based on your roles, right?
Like his story plot where he just had to be confident in himself was it wasn't a bad storyline.
No.
It wasn't the best in this
No.
movie by any means, but it was fine.
Yeah, it made him an interesting character, which was all you really needed, especially when you had a good cast of mostly interesting characters. Kira is kind of the pivotal point of the story, I guess. It's all about trying to get Kira back.
Yeah. Forge
is an SOB.
Kidnaps her pretty much. Brainwashes her.
He didn't kidnap
her.
He
didn't
just got
kidnap her, but
gifted her, basically.
I guess so. No, but he was supposed to be taking care of her as a friend, and and then he turns out to be a conniving little scamp.
Working with Sophina.
Right.
Which isn't a very scary name, by the way.
Sophina?
Yeah.
No, but she's clearly backbone of this plan. Okay, they have a deal. Hers is much more ambitious.
Mhm.
His is very much in a greedy manner,
Yeah, I'm
just
gonna
like
take
he
this
should
bunch of
be.
money and I'm out of here.
Right? Doesn't care about the power. Doesn't care about the position. Um, his he's essentially working for her.
Yeah,
Right?
just so he can get some treasure and peace out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which doesn't work for him in the
No.
end, as it should not.
No. And that's his ending with, being in that prison and running into the wall after trying the same fly away
Oh
tactic.
yeah, great.
So good. It's hilarious.
Yeah, so the whole point is that like um what's his face? Edgin.
Edgin?
Edgin?
Edgin, yeah. Edgin?
He messed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Made a bunch of
He
excuses.
didn't even really mess up, though.
Well,
Like,
I
he
mean,
went and did a job that he knew that he kind of shouldn't do, and he said that he would be back. Peace. But he wouldn't have failed at that job if it wasn't all plotted by Sophia and Forge in
yeah.
the first place.
But I mean, he messed up in the manner of putting his own needs before hers.
Yeah.
In that manner, and then rectified that later, obviously.
Yeah.
But
by bringing Holga back,
that drove the story, the plot,
yeah.
right? So she really is the whole reason for all of this. She's a minor character in the story, but a plot driver.
Yeah.
Right. She is given a brooch or necklace pendant, yes, which has similar aspects to the ring from the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit of boop.
Yep.
Makes her disappear. She's
got an invisibility spell.
Invisibility cloak.
It's not a cloak,
but it wasn't no cloak.
Right.
All right. I'm suggesting that maybe she grows up to be a rogue.
Maybe
has influences from Forge.
Yeah, she's got rogue and bard, which are like singing rogues, kind of thing, with less combat ability. Which
so, and her whole sneak up and put the cuffling on Sophina.
That was so good.
You know,
that was such a great fight.
It's a great and the development of the characters through that. What is his name? Yender?
The paladin?
The paladin?
Yeah.
Not the paladin. No, Simon.
Simon.
Him not being able to stop the time spell.
Yes.
In the beginning, and then later on, faking it for the plan.
Yeah.
Is just a nice turnaround.
It was good.
Right.
So solid. And that just shows, he's a powerhouse now. He's
not
just a weak ass sorcerer.
And you knew that needed to happen.
It really did.
Right? Because if that character had stayed stagnant the way he was, it just would not have felt right.
Yeah, it would have been sad. Would have been sad. I love the fact that they got to go to the Underdark. The Underdark is like one of my favorite spots in D&D. Mostly because I love a good dark elf. Just
the references to the actual locations from D&D lore was enough for me.
There were so many. Like, and they talked about Baldur's Gate, which I mean is, if you've played it all, you've probably heard of Baldur's Gate. And if you haven't played, but you've played some of the video games, you've heard of Baldur's Gate. Like, it was kind of cool that they mentioned it at least. But in the Underdark, we get
some of the best scenes.
One of the best scenes in it.
And one of the best characters.
The character, yes. And
you know who I'm talking about.
Are you talking about I'm gonna mess up his name. Thembershar?
Yeah. Now this is a character actually from a campaign.
Was it also a thick dragon?
No, yes,
in
it
the
was.
Campaign?
The whole story is that there's a certain amount of characters that that dragon made a deal with, and they would keep bringing it people to eat.
Okay.
And they would bring it loot and people to eat until it got that chunky.
Mm-hmm.
And now this thing is struggling to get around, and just when it trips over the chain and just rolls.
Yeah, it just keeps rolling after them.
Like, you were rooting for this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I loved that dragon in here. It's not the same as watching Vox Machina and the dragons in that.
Yeah.
This dragon was a little more...
It was humorous. Right? And you felt for that dragon.
Yeah.
I was watching it with Monica, and when it appeared that the dragon was being destroyed, she was genuinely sad. Like,
He'll be
this... Like, if you haven't seen it yet, just picture this extremely chunky red dragon.
Yeah. Like sausage shaped.
Like if you can just picture like a fat pug.
Yeah.
and grow it up to a
with little
dragon,
stumpy
right?
arms on it.
Struggling to fly.
Yeah. Mostly kind of trying to half hop fly with its stumpy legs. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
it was
it was
one
a
of the
great
best
scene.
things
I loved it.
in the movie, I would say. And it's
And
a real character, a real.
I like that. And I didn't do like often I'll overdo research before, and I did not for
Yeah.
this one. I was like, you know
Like
what?
I'm not going so
I love it.
deep that I'm like gonna tell you what campaign it's from and all this stuff,
Why
right?
not?
But
I
because
want to
I
know.
don't know.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
But I know just enough.
One of the other notes from the Underdark has got to be this is either one of those times when the party just doesn't want to do the really complex thing that the DM has set out, or
Or they Leroy Jenkins
they
it
rolled a nat one, and the bridge destruction piece where he just kind of cash leans and steps on the trigger that destroys the whole bridge.
because the paladin took
Oh,
some good time explaining how to do this.
yeah, and he wasn't even done. Like it was a good,
And then there's
probably
just
30-second piece where he was just talking.
the annoyance on his face
Yeah,
was like a DM's annoyance
yeah, you wrecked the whole piece of my story.
because that DM put solid time
Yeah,
into making a puzzle,
yeah,
and then you just spent 30 or 3 seconds
yeah,
destroying it,
with a casual.
right? But then it gives them an opportunity to use um, another tool, which
Yes.
gets them through that portal staff. Was fantastic. It also introduces stuff like line of sight,
Yes.
which is really kind of cool to see in the movie.
And distance.
Yeah,
Like your how far you can cast something,
yeah.
which
So
is
it
neat.
really kind of plays with mechanics, which is one of the things that makes this movie better than previous movies
Yeah.
in the D&D
Well,
world.
they talk about pieces like the mechanics and the backstories and pieces like that, and they make little tropes that show you what playing the game is like during this movie, which I think is what really pushes it along, what makes it what it is, and what makes it more relatable and enjoyable for anybody that's played D&D to
Yeah.
watch this movie.
And in the same way, that scene where they break into the vault,
Yes.
where they use the picture and the portal and stuff like that, and the picture falls over,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that is classic D&D storytelling.
Yeah. That's
Like,
a nat one.
Yeah.
That happened. Just
I had to explain that.
everything worked except you rolled a one on placing the picture and it fell over.
So Monica's like, what? Why does that matter, right? And I just looked at her and I went, it's a portal.
Now to the floor.
And she just goes, I don't know.
Can't they just climb out the back?
It's not how portals work, hon.
Yeah, it was great. There were so many good scenes in this.
It's
The
hard. It's
maze-
hard to really nail them all down.
Yeah, the maze parts where we got to see some extra classic
Oh,
monsters,
D&D
displacer
monsters.
beasts. I loved and was horrified by displacer beasts, and have actually run into them. And we were talking about this earlier too.
Yes.
The bloody mimic. I was thinking about it,
Yeah.
and I can't think of a time that I've actually run into a mimic.
But
But every single time I think about opening a chest or doing something,
anything,
I'm always like, is that a mimic?
it's gonna be a mimic.
Everything's a mimic. So I'm always scared. Always scared of mimics. Ooh.
That could be a mimic right there.
I think it is.
All right. Another thing I've never run into, but is a classic D&D monster, is the gelatinous cube,
Yeah. What is that? It's a cube. And
cube.
It's gelatinous.
and it's got acidity.
It literally is the least creative named monster
The
in
gelatinous
all of,
cube.
in all of
It
D&D.
literally just describes what it
Yeah.
is.
It's
All
like
right.
that's a white board, but it's actually a monster. No?
Yeah. I mean, you don't see your classic beholders.
No,
Right.
no beholders.
That
we did
that
not
would
get
be a trope,
liches.
right? But
Well, because when you think about those kinds of things, though, you're looking at like big bads.
yeah,
Like, that's your end game. And instead, we had the Red Wizard of Thay, which again I think is like an old school reference from campaigns and stuff like that. Thay is actually a
oh
place
yeah.
in Faerun.
They're not pulling this stuff out of their ass.
No, they did their homework.
This is lore.
Yeah.
It has a very they have a very vampire-esque feeling to them,
Yeah.
like a very
Well, they're almost
strand.
very like lichy.
Yeah.
Too, right? Like they're trying to create an undead army
Mm-hmm.
basically, and they don't seem quite alive themselves. And even the warriors when they get into that fight with them and the paladin just rips them up.
Yep.
he says, it's not easy to kill something that's already dead,
Already
and they're
dead.
starting to click themselves back together
Yeah.
like Nebula and Guardians of the Galaxy
Don't get me started on that. We just watched Guardians of the Galaxy. We'll be talking about that soon.
next week.
Stick around.
Next week
Not
live.
stick around today, but
Yeah,
stick around next week.
next Saturday
All right.
or this Saturday coming. I suppose this Saturday. By the time this comes out, this Saturday,
You don't know that.
unless this comes out after that, I have faith in our producer. Um, another
Hmm.
great
I don't know
portion.
why I went full Winnie the
That
Pooh
was
there.
another great portion of this was the Speak with
Woohoo.
Dead spell, which is classically messed up. You never get exactly what you want when you're using that spell, and they messed it up so many times. And I love the scene as they panned out after,
Hmm.
where there's just a whole bunch of dug up graves because they just couldn't find
Oh
what they
my
needed,
god.
and they left that poor fellow.
Yeah. See, Grim here didn't stick
I
around
didn't.
and find out that the poor guy was just left there.
Hmm.
Um, it's such a classic circumstance for a D&D campaign where like they're digging it up and then the whole you can ask 3 questions but the 3 questions go wrong.
Yeah, especially the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they fall back dead.
Yeah.
That's it.
Except for
Messed it
that
up.
one guy.
Yep.
That poor soul.
And then you didn't ask the last question, and he's just got to sit there now for the rest of eternity until some random person wanders up and asks him a question.
Yeah. What a life. After life.
What an afterlife. Yeah.
Yeah.
Life after death.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
What more do we have to say about this? And we've been
Can we
talking
talk a really brief
for a
moment
long
about
time.
Holga's taste in men? Because
There's a could no, it's not just that, but his taste in women.
oh, yes. Yes, he does like big barbarian women.
Yeah.
The way that I mean that, so first of all, I'm going to go with he's a gnome.
I would imagine. Bradley Cooper.
Yes. Is a gnome in this.
We're not in this. We're not implying that Bradley Cooper is a gnome. I don't want all the Bradley Cooper fans coming at us.
That's right. And telling us we're bad fans. We give fandom a bad name.
Oh, come on now.
Um
Hey now.
so Holga likes very small men, and he loves large barbarian like women because he has a new girl and she's a large one. But then at the end,
Yeah, she's
she's
got her eyes on
another
that gnome.
small fellow.
If that's what they are in this
I
is gnomes.
I want to say gnome. I didn't get halfling vibes really, but maybe could be a halfling.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a halfling. It's probably a halfling when I'm thinking about it more in
All right.
classic races.
All right.
Go with halfling.
Are people better off knowing that Bradley Cooper is a halfling?
Yeah. Bradley Cooper, the halfling.
All right.
But yeah, that's what I want to end on is Holga's taste in men.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so we didn't really touch base a lot on like the plot and stuff like that of this. It's more of a hey, let's talk about how we felt about this movie.
Yeah. If you want to know about the plot, watch the movie.
You know. It's just a great movie.
It really is.
You know, there wasn't really a whole lot of moments where I was like, like
No.
it was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, all the way through. And I mean, it didn't have to be action packed and stuff like that. There was a lot of those like traveling from location to location and trying to figure stuff out things. But that's D&D again.
Yeah, there wasn't really a moment where I felt like this isn't accurate.
Yeah, yeah, it felt like you
because
were playing.
those downtimes felt like regular campaign downtimes.
Yeah, when you're taking your short or long rest.
You know, and even they literally took a rest where Simon had to atone to the thing, which is exactly when he would do that.
Yep. Yeah, it was great.
Like
it's so good.
We finally got a movie that was based on D&D that felt like a D&D movie.
And if they because I mean they left and I mean any D&D movie is probably going to leave all of these kind of like possibilities because that's what D&D is.
It's a very open world, and they've left it open-ended.
And I'm hopeful that they'll keep on this kind of train with at least a couple more movies.
You could definitely carry stuff on as just new campaigns.
Yeah, and it doesn't even in that way you don't even have to have identical characters in it. It's same party or whatever. It could be a different game. each time, or however you want to do it.
You could literally have The Crow type of movie where it doesn't matter where the story starts. It's a different character,
Yeah.
a different series of characters.
Yes. I was like, where's he going with this?
You get it.
I
You
got it
get
now.
what I'm
I got it
saying.
now. If you don't know what The Crow is, because it's like a
'Cause you're
1990s cult classic film, then watch that because it's a great movie.
It's an old reference.
Yeah, but
A little
yeah,
bit of Brandon
something
Lee.
where you could pick it up with any set of actors and just kind of do
Because the
a show.
plot doesn't require the same characters.
Right.
Right? Would it be nice to see a couple returning
Oh, for
characters?
sure.
Yeah. But you pick up characters and you drop characters.
Mhm.
And that's the lovely thing. That's the lovely thing about D&D.
Yeah.
Is that, the only thing that is not realistic about this is that they didn't have a whole lot of trouble getting it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Their
didn't
party
take
came together.
It didn't take 3 months to get the group together.
Yeah. Ooh, scheduling conflict. We're gonna have to wait.
If you're a D&D player, you definitely know that
Yeah.
struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm ready for a banana rating, I think.
Banana it away.
All
I
right.
got it.
I got a feeling
that tonight's gonna be a good night. I pass this banana to you, so.
I'm gonna be giving this a fairly high rating.
How are you?
As far as D&D movies go, if you put it in that,
Well, that's a 10.
that's a 10. As far as movies in general go,
Yeah.
I'm throwing it out there as an 8.
That's solid. And
Solid 8 bananas.
Yeah. I mean, 8 solid. I was gonna go in that 8.85 range. It's a solid movie. It was enjoyable. It was almost family friendly. I took my kids, even though there was some possibly not as family friendly pieces. But we all had a great time because we all enjoy playing D&D together. So take your family to see this movie. It's great. 8.5 bananas.
And if you get a chance
out of 10
to play a game yourselves, take it.
Take it. Try it out. It's fun. And it can be fun for long periods of time. Years. We've played games that have lasted years. We've also played games that lasted one
session.
But
you know what we're talking about if you're an old D&D player.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Like, subscribe, bell. Send out all your friends and say, hey, watch this show. It's good.
What's a subscribe bell?
Subscribe. Hit the subscribe bell. Like, subscribe, comment.
Share this with your friends and join us for possibly our next video.
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy, which we just saw today.
Volume 3.
Want to talk about it already?
I really do.
Cheers.
It's going to be so good. Peace out. What was that?
What is that?
I think that turned into Mario.
Let's go.
You're stupid.